The Dollars Seen Differently podcast is produced by CNIB in collaboration with financial experts to provide educational content on financial literacy. The information provided in this podcast is intended for educational purposes only and should not be construed as personal financial advice. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official stance of CNIB. CNIB and its affiliates shall not be held liable for any actions taken by listeners based on the information provided in this podcast. Listeners are solely responsible for their financial decisions and should exercise caution and discretion when implementing any strategies discussed in the podcast.
Welcome everybody, this is Dollars Seen Differently. I am Ryan Hui joining you again, and today this is very exciting as we're going to dip our toes into the cryptocurrency world, and I have with me Graham Dobbs, who is a senior economist from the dais at Toronto Metropolitan University, joining me today. Thanks so much, Graham. How are you?
Good, thanks. And nice to talk to you again, Ryan.
Yeah, it's been some time, but I'm so glad that you made some time to join us because we know how in-depth your world is and how you're being pulled here, there, and everywhere. So this is wonderful. Do you want to dive right in, get into some crypto?
Sure. Yeah, more than happy to.
Perfect. So in the simplest and plain terms possible, can you tell me and the audience listening what cryptocurrency is?
Sure. Well, cryptocurrency as a whole is a digital form of money, essentially, and it only exists in the electronic form. So, like, unlike traditional currencies like dollars and yen, which are regulated by governments, cryptocurrencies are decentralized. And they typically are powered by a network of personal computers from firms and businesses. What they do is they generally use cryptography to not only secure but verify transactions that go on between people who use cryptocurrency. And they rely on technology known as blockchain.
Okay, so you mentioned dollars and yen. So with those are different types of money. Are there different types of cryptocurrency?
Yeah, there's quite a few. They generally differ on how the actual network of systems that decentralize each currency, I guess, is rolled up. So the way their algorithms are defined are slightly different. I mean, I could talk a little bit about the actual different cryptocurrencies. So, I mean, the main one, which is Bitcoin, it was actually designed to be an alternative to a normal kind of traditional currency, where users could transfer the value of money directly to one another without needing a bank. At its core, it was actually meant to provide a way to reduce transactions and reduce kind of error in counting. And it was also transactions on Bitcoin were visible to everyone else who had Bitcoin on the network. So it was kind of there to reduce fraud and eliminate the need for some sort of intermediary to see all these transactions. Now, there's quite a few others. I can talk about a few of them. There's other ones called altcoins or alternative coins, and they were created to improve upon some of the limitations of Bitcoin in general. Bitcoin has some transactional speed issues. It's hard to scale because it's actually finite. There's only X amount of Bitcoins. And then other functionalities, which might be a little bit too deep in the weeds for this. But another thing is there are stable coins, which are a type of cryptocurrency that try to maintain a more stable value by being pegged to reserve assets, sort of like you would see a gold reserve. But these stable coins are actually pegged to something like a normal fiat currency like the US dollar or even gold, to be fair. And then lastly, there's one more, which kind of go with the opposite way of Bitcoin in general, but they're designed to provide users with enhanced privacy and anonymity. So they're called like privacy coins. And they use even more fancy kind of cryptographic techniques to, I guess, anonymize transaction details, but still have them, recorded and verified properly.
This is so interesting to me. So you mentioned one thing, and that was that it's kind of was invented originally, at least the Bitcoin, to kind of cut back on accounting errors, which is interesting. I hadn't considered that as a benefit to doing the cryptocurrency online. You mostly will see, I don't want to say in the media, but just you'll hear people talking how difficult it is and how it kind of gets a bad rep or has a bad view, whereas someone like yourself who is a little bit familiar with this world is telling me something a whole lot different, that we don't hear this side of this is why it was invented or this is how it's used. So that was really interesting to me. Now, I half joke at this question, but I'm also very curious. So the whole question is, how is it different than our regular good old dollars and cents money, bills and coins? But I came to think about it, I have a $20 bill, I put it in my wallet, I put it in my pocket. Where would I store digital currency, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin? Is it different or is it kind of the same?
So in many cases, cryptocurrencies as a whole are stored in what you would call a virtual wallet or something close to like a stock exchange that you would do transactions at your bank. So there are actual banks in crypto, and they're called crypto exchanges, and you can basically transfer your coins from your digital wallet to a crypto exchange, and then you can convert between different cryptocurrencies. So a lot of the basic functionalities are very much the same. But the issue with having a virtual wallet is that they're very easy to lose. Um, because cryptocurrency is decentralized, you can't go to an admin and ask, "Hey, I forgot my password or I forgot my ID for my wallet. Can you give it back to me?" That isn't necessarily the case. And in crypto exchanges, it might be a little different, but having a virtual wallet, you could have 10 cents or 10 Bitcoin or 10,000 Bitcoin. If you don't know or forget the credentials to your virtual wallet, it's gone. It's in the ether, as you would say.
So it's gone from everybody. Like that's interesting to me. So if I forget anything like that, it makes sense if it's decentralized, but nobody can. There's no technology or anything that can bring it back, I guess, legally, where you'd have to almost like somehow break it. That's really interesting to me. Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to essentially crack your own code based on what your previous passwords might have been. There's been instances where people have recovered their wallet, but they've done it in ways that aren't necessarily legal. They might brute force try to hundreds of thousands of passwords to try and get their wallet back, but they have some sort of partial information to do something like that.
Dollars
seen differently.
So if I'm in the market of getting my hands on some cryptocurrency, maybe some Bitcoin or something like that, what where some of the uses be of that, or how could I kind of use it, or are they similar to money, the same as money, or different?
So cryptocurrency can be used like money. It just depends on who actually accepts cryptocurrencies. So there's a number of companies and industries that can use or accept cryptocurrencies for payment. Tesla and PayPal used to. There's been countries that have thought of integrating cryptocurrencies into their actual monetary system, like El Salvador. But generally, purchasing things with crypto tend to stay in the domain of kind of blockchain services and applications and goods. So, I'm sure people have heard of things like digital art, like non-fungible tokens, or games that are designed around a particular cryptocurrency. So, the in-game currency is a real cryptocurrency that you can use and spend within that domain. But generally, I would say if you had to use cryptocurrency to buy something, you generally have to convert it back to a fiat currency.
That was my next question. So based on that answer, I can convert it back into cash, whether it be US dollars, Canadian dollars, or pretty much any dollars worldwide.
So, yes and no. I believe that certain cryptocurrencies have to be converted back to one that is regulated by some sort of exchange, or someone is willing to give you money for that particular cryptocurrency. So it's not always the case, particularly with more fringe, I'd say, cryptocurrencies. There would be some sort of intermediary step. So we get into the case in point where, at this point, you're basically having to go through some sort of decentralized exchange to get real fiat dollars.
Oh, okay, so that makes more sense to me now realizing that. So what are some of the downfalls of cryptocurrency?
There's quite a few, and I'll try and get into some of the major ones. But the big thing I think people don't realize about cryptocurrency is they're not very stable. Like a dollar today is generally a Canadian dollar today is generally a Canadian dollar tomorrow. It might vary a little bit, relative to the rest of fiat currencies, but they're generally par on par the same. Whereas things like Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other currency will tend to be quite volatile in the value of each coin or Bitcoin. So these extreme price swings can really dictate what your spending power is per coin. And that's why kind of this onset of the idea of stable coins have come. But they're very much subject to things like people selling their coins, how the entire market for cryptocurrency is feeling about coins, the regulation that's going on, and develop technological developments in cryptocurrencies, and they cause massive fluctuations. So they're closer to something like a stock more so than a currency.
Okay, so in that case, where would I find cryptocurrency, and like how would I obtain it if I actually wanted to buy some, or if some of the listeners out there wanted to buy some?
I think the normal regulatory thing is like, I'm not a financial advisor in any shape or form, and this is not financial advice. But there's a number of ways to do it. There's ways you can sign up for something like a cryptocurrency exchange and exchange fiat currency for crypto. People who are already in this space, I'm sure, can send you some, but I wouldn't trust that. But there's a lot of implications that go with converting cold hard cash into crypto, like tax implications and regulatory concerns in your certain province, state, or country. And sometimes these transactions may take time or a lot of verification. It's more complicated than you'd think. There are other ways to invest in cryptocurrency in the normal kind of investment avenues, whether that's actually going through a traditional stock exchange. And then I'd say the last, if not, I wouldn't say the least necessarily, is actually acquiring cryptocurrency through the actual computing or powering of the transactions that go on a cryptocurrency network, which is called mining, where essentially you're running the algorithm on your computer to verify transactions that go on a particular coin. Because we talked about that already with the verification security aspect of blockchain as a whole and cryptocurrencies in general.
Right. Okay. So I thought it was as simple as, you go to whatever website and you're able to, buy some on your credit card or whatever. So that's interesting to me that it's a little bit more complicated, and I hadn't realized that. My final question, what can you tell me about what you thought you knew about crypto, but what's changed? What was one of the most important things now that you're into your, senior economist kind of career, and when you originally started looking into this and studying it, What's changed, or what are some of the big things that stuck out?
So I think maybe for me, as an economist, your kind of goal or aspiration is, you tend to deal with markets, buyers and sellers, firms and employers or employees that have a decision to make around allocating, their cash or their resources, and they're finite and they want to do it in the most equitable or effective way, however they define it. And it's really interesting to see a lot of the interminglings between what we see as traditional money markets and the rise of cryptocurrencies. And now it's very tough to say there is a distinct, concrete relationship between traditional money markets and crypto markets. But what we do see is there's a lot of activities that we see in certain relationships in traditional markets that we're seeing now in crypto markets. For one thing, cryptocurrency sometimes is seen as an alternative place to put assets as long as it's done in a regulatory feasible manner or regulatory aligned manner, sort of like what people do when they decide to invest in some commodity that is not really tied to anything that's an economic action, right? So, when you invest in Apple, right, you're buying Apple stocks, and Apple's a firm that makes products, and you're investing in their success in building products. Whereas if you invest in something like gold, right, gold doesn't really do all that much for the economy. It's just a resource that people tie some, arbitrary value to. And that's kind of where I'm seeing a lot of these cryptocurrencies. I see it as an asset class that is really sort of like an alternative haven or alternative to when people don't really know what's going on, maybe in more commonly invested areas of money markets. So I think it's interesting how it's developed. It's very popular among a younger demographic, but I think there's not really this big, so what about it yet. There's no real, huge value proposition that makes me say, I personally even, I need to be in the game. As I speak about this right now, you think about, oh, okay, well, I need to get cryptocurrency. Well, I have to go through an exchange, which is essentially like a bank. So what's the point? There is intermediaries. Yes, there's obviously there were YouTube comments. They tell me I'm wrong, but it seems like all the positives and benefits to aligning with cryptocurrencies don't really differ that much from fiat currencies. And at least with fiat currencies, I know they're backed by huge government regulations and real physical things that go on in the world. So that's my take.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. That was Graham Dobbs, senior economist from the dais at Toronto Metropolitan University, and we were talking cryptocurrency, dipping our toes in the water. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for everything, and I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of this, Graham.
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
This has been Dollars Seen Differently, and this is Ryan Hui signing off. Thanks, guys.
Dollars Seen Differently.
This is Dollars Seen Differently, and we're cashing out. Ryan Hui is our host. A very special thanks to all of our guests. This episode was produced by the CNIB Financial Literacy Working Group. David Stinson is our associate producer, with production assistance from Sean Roman and Blair Stainton. It was edited by Sean Roman and engineered by the team at CNIB Beyond Print Studios. Sean Roman provided our theme music for CNIB Beyond Print. Used under Creative Commons Fair Use License 4.0. Special thanks to the CNIB National Youth Council and CNIB's IDEA team. For more information about the CNIB, please visit us at www.cnib.ca.
Dollars
Seen Differently.